Next, this brings us to aux sends, groups, and mixed minuses. So let's head on to the console and go ahead and cover that. Okay, so right now we have the first aux send selected. On my show file, as you see, it's my drum rube send for the reverb, okay? Again, with the advanced navigation button engaged with the effects button there, you'll see on the right side of the console that it does bring the effect up to the screen whenever you select it. Same for if we select on the snare verb or the tom reverb or the bass effects or anything like that, the effects can come right up and we can get in with the encoders in the assignable control section to be able to make those changes. Okay, so let's go to the aux send overview. Very similar to the input channel here, we can see that we have a compressor that's available on the channel. The gate is not available on the aux send. To the right of that, we have a direct in. Then we have the safe modes. We have a bus trim. We don't have any head amp control, so if we were to swap the gain on that, nothing happens. We have the mode button there, the talk if we wanted to engage the talk, or if we wanted to link aux send 1 and 2 together. We have an insert button as well as the EQ in. We can see that the EQ is off right now. Then on the aux sends details, the only options that are available there are just matrix sends, no other aux sends. So you can't send the aux send back into itself or to another group. Okay, then again below that we have the master assignments to the stereo bus, the monitor bus, as well as the pan knob. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into the configuration tab. As we see here again, we have what our source is, that its destination is being sent to the first effect of the drum reverb, which I have a vintage room on. If we click on the destination knob, it brings up the patching screen, and you'll see that aux send 1 is going into the first effects engine, which we have our drum room inserted. As you'll see, because this is a mono send, I'm actually putting it into both inputs on the drum reverb. So if you look here on the right side at the actual effect, you'll see that our input levels are matched equally. Because this is a stereo effect, I don't have a problem sending the mono signal into both sides to give it a nice width on the stereo return. Okay, so let's head back in here. Okay, below that, again, we have our link options. So if we go ahead and select that, we'll see that our stereo linking options are here on the screen. We can link up the input controls, the direct inputs, the dynamics, the inserts, the EQ, so on and so forth. Right now I have the mute and the solo disengaged. Not a big deal because I'm not actually linking anything. So we can go ahead and close that out. Next to the link options, we have the COL button, which stands for collapsed. If we had aux send 1 and 2 linked together, it would actually take this mono fader and we would actually see stereo inputs. To show you exactly how that is, we'll just flip over to the next page where you see my kick group here. So let me go ahead and select that, and you'll see that I have the COL button disengaged. Okay. Now you can see the kick group is broken down into 2 mono channels. If we go ahead and press it, now we see that it's appearing and saving space on the screen, and we see both the left and the right side inputs. So let's go back to the drum room. And again, there's the link button there that would allow us to link aux send 1 and 2 together. Next is the mode button. This is very, very important. This is actually going to be where you're going to say what this send actually is. Right now it's selected on mix because we're using it as an aux send for an effect, or if you were using this for monitors from front of house, this is what you would use. The next mode is the group mode. So let me just pan over to one of my channels that I already have assigned to the groups. Here I have the kick group. So all of my kick channels are actually routed to this group. Okay, as you see, the compressor is engaged. I have an insert on there, which on the right side of the screen, you actually see the effect that is inserted. I'm using the sub monster on that guy. Okay, and the link button is engaged because there's 2 channels. So let's take a look at the link options that we have set for that. As you see, I actually have everything engaged for this. So any of the input controls, the direct inputs, the dynamic, the insert, the EQ, so on and so forth, are able to be controlled with one set of the controls. Okay, and again, on the screen, we're seeing the stereo input there. So for example, if I was on the tom group, when I have the actual channels being panned on the console, they're panning exactly the same to the group. So as he's going down through the toms, you're gonna hear the same panning representation, coming out of the speakers or the in-ears or so on and so forth. And the final mode would be mix minus. So those are the three groups that we have to choose from on the console. So let's go back to our drum room here and go back through our configuration. Next, we have the bus trim. This allows us to trim the digital gain either +6 or -12. We also have the option to flip the phase of this channel if need be. We have the gain knob here, which is set to infinity because I don't have anything coming in, so there's nothing going on there. The mute button is also engaged because I don't have anything assigned to it. As you can see just below that we have nothing assigned. If we wanted to assign a direct input, we can go ahead and click on the source. Again, we're presented with the patching screen to be able to patch in wherever we need that direct input to come from. Below the mute button is the B button. Again, this has nothing to do with area B on the console, but it has to do with the monitor B. So if we were to go ahead and engage the solo, we would then hear it coming out of the monitor B bus. And just below the direct input gain knob, we have a pre button. Below that, we have our automation safe. We have EQ, automation, dynamics, mute, mic, and fader. Below that, this is going to be for inserts. If we wanted to insert anything on this channel, for example, if we were in the group, we could go ahead and insert, say, a compressor. But in this instance, we have an internal effect, which in fact is our submonster. So again, we see the source and the destination knobs, where it's coming from, where it's going, and where it's coming back to. And this is where we would be able to patch that in. So let's head on back. And next we have input delay. Again, this delay is not the delay you would think like repeats on a vocal or anything like that. This has to do with the delay compensation that's sending the signal then to the master bus to keep channels in line. Below that, we have the processing order. The processing order by default has the dynamics, then the insert, then the EQ. If we go ahead and engage that, it puts the EQ in front of the insert and then the dynamics at the end. Below that is a very important option. We see here that it says send pan follows the channel. So if we had the stereo group, we can go ahead and engage that so all of our surface panning that's going out of the left and right or wherever will actually be the same with all of the sends. So this way we don't actually have to go down to each and every single aux send and match the panning. We can go ahead and click that and we're good to go. Below that, we have set all contributions button. We have a pre and a post. So for example, if you're gonna be doing monitors from front of house and you wanna say, have aux send 9 be like your first floor wedge on stage, you can go ahead and press pre, and that's gonna make every single channel pre-fader for aux send 9. The same also is gonna apply for post. So this is a great time-saving step when you're setting up the console. This way you just know it's already been done for you. Now we're in the compressor section for the aux sends, groups, and mix minus. Right now, again, I have the kick group selected because I actually have the compressor engaged there. As you'll see here, there's the 5 time constants that you would expect to find on the compressor: the threshold, the ratio, attack, release, and of course the makeup gain. Below the ratio knob, we have a 3-way selectable knee. As you see, as I press the knee button, below in the window, it's actually changing the knee. Going back to the top, we have 2 buttons. We have an MOR button. I like to leave this engaged. Basically what the MOR button means is more. What it does is it just kind of enhances the characteristics of the compressor to kind of have it be heard a little bit more. It's just a little bit more of an aggressive type of compressor. So if you're really going for that over-compressed, creative type of sound, this is going to help make that compressor be heard more. And then below that, we have the mode, which will allow us to cycle through the 5 different types of compressors that the console has. Okay? Personally, I like the adaptive compressor. Below that is the filter section. Right now, I don't have any of the sidechain filter engaged, but if I wanted to, I can go ahead and click that. And as we see down in the frequency window, we can now sweep the frequency and actually dial in exactly where we want this compressor to react. If we go ahead and click the width, you'll see that it slowly starts to narrow the band. And if we click it one more, it's kind of more of like a peaking style EQ to make the compressor just really narrow in on a specific frequency that you have selected. Next to that, we have the menu. This will bring up the patching screen. So if you wanted to go ahead and actually sidechain in any of the channels, you can go ahead and do that through this. And then next, we have the listen button. This will allow you to actually hear what the frequency that you're trying to dial in on the filter. Below that, we have the source. We see that it is sourced internally. So if we did go ahead and patch this in from a signal in from somewhere else to be keyed in, we would see that information displayed here. And lastly, we actually see the gain reduction meters and we see the signal coming in as it approaches the knee. So just to exaggerate it, let me go ahead and bring down the threshold and you're gonna see how that's really kicking in. Okay, and we can just really crush the hell out of that guy. So let's bring that back up. So now that brings us to the EQ section. This looks a little bit different than the EQ on the input channels. Here we actually have 6 bands of EQ. Okay, we can cycle through all of these by using the arrow keys next to the EQ on the control surface. Okay, we have a couple of different band options, but let's scroll up here to band number 6 and let's engage the shape. As we see, we have a shell filter. We have a 6 dB roll-off as well as a 12 dB roll-off. Okay, we can also use this fully parametrically. The same also applies to band 1 and band 2. For band 1, here we have a shell filter. We have a 6 dB roll-off as well as a 12 dB roll-off. For band 2, we have a 24 dB roll-off and that's it. Back to the fully parametric EQ. Below that, we see this box here, which is grayed out right now. We can go ahead and actually patch in one of our graphic EQs. So let's switch over to the graphic EQ and pop one in there just so I can show you exactly what's gonna happen. So because the kick group is actually a stereo group, I need 2 graphic EQs. So for now, let me just take these 2 right here, which are linked together. I have them sending my delay left and right outputs off of a matrix. So let me click on this and we're gonna set that to aux send 25. And here we go. And now actually what you'll see is aux send 25 and 26 are assigned to these 2 graphic EQs. And if we look now on the left side of the console, we'll see now that the EQ is actually the graphic EQ. So we can go ahead and bring up that EQ and control it right here. Now, if we close out of this and we go back to our home screen here and we select our kick group and with our advanced mix button, select to graphic EQ, you'll see now that the faders are actually going to be able to allow us to control that graphic EQ. So we can make all of our changes here. We can unselect it and now the VCAs pop back up. Next, we're in the sends overview. As you're noticing, the 72 aux sends are not viewed on the screen. Why? Because we can't send aux sends back to themselves. However, we do have the matrices appearing on the screen. And if you'll notice, matrix 3, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15, they look a little bit different. That's because these are actually stereo group matrices. So let's scroll down to matrix 3. So we can bank through in groups of 8 to quickly be able to get there. As you see, once we get 1 through 8 on the screen, it denotes the name and you see all that information right then and there to easily know exactly which matrix you're going to be going to. So let's scroll to matrix 3. As you see here on the 8 encoders, number 3 is illuminated and we can now make changes to the matrix. To the left, we have the on button as well as the pre. All right, because this is a stereo matrix, if we go ahead and press either 3 or 4 on, both of them turn on. Same will also apply for the pre-fader because this is a stereo group, so they're linked together. The first knob in this section is actually going to be our pan knob. So this will allow us to pan anything to the left or the right. The fourth encoder, this is actually what's going to allow us to change our levels for the matrix sense. Makes life a lot easier. Last, we have the fader and master overview. On the left-hand side, this is where we can assign the channel to actually get routed to the stereo bus or the mono bus. You can see that we have the pan knob engaged because this is a stereo group. It's panning it both to the left for aux 25 and 26 for the right side. So if we go ahead and press that again, we're now looking at aux 26. To the right of that, we see our mute status and our solo status. We also have a B button here. And again, this is not for area B on the console. However, what this is if we select area B and we engage the solo button, this is going to route the solo to the monitor B bus on the console. So if you have your headphones plugged into the right side of the console, this is going to allow you to be able to hear that. And as you see, we have signal present there. If the B is not engaged and you have your headphones on the left side, this is routing the signal to the monitor A bus, and again, we see that we have the signal soloed there. Below that is a visual representation of the fader. To the left of that, we have our VCA and pop groups. Right now, this channel is not assigned to any VCAs nor any pop groups. And that's the fader and master overview.